Here's the thing. For the first time in American history, police organizations and the national security organizations were used to spy on a campaign. And there was no basis for it. And the media largely drove that. And all kinds of sensational claims were being made about the president that could have affected the election. And then later on in his administration, there were actions taken that really appear to be efforts to sabotage his campaign. And that has to be looked at. And if people want to say that I'm political because I am looking at those potential abuses of power, so be it. But that's the job of the Attorney General.
If you had to characterize the Durham report as you know it now, is it going to be eye-opening for Americans, or is this going to be kind of a blip on the road to?
I'm very troubled by what has been called to my attention so far, but I'm not going to characterize it beyond that.
Can you tell us anything about the investigation into unmasking?
Unmasking is not by itself illegal, but the patterns of unmasking can tell us something about people's motivations at any given point of time. So we're trying to take a look at the whole waterfront on unmasking, what was done especially in 2016.
And is there criminal implications there?
As I say, it's not against the law to unmask anyone. But I mean, for example, suppose for a period in the spring, there was a lot of heavy unmasking done on people involved with the Trump campaign. That would be very relevant as to what people were thinking at that time and what their motivations were.
You mentioned the Flynn case. You're in the process of trying to dismiss that charge, the charges, yet the Judge Sullivan, continues on and has now a shadow prosecutor making a case that it should continue.
The argument is that it's always been understood that decisions whether to pursue an individual through the prosecution process or holding them criminally accountable is vested in the executive branch and not the courts. And he is essentially, in our view, trying to set himself up as an alternative prosecutor.
And so have you seen anything like this before?
I'm not aware of anything like this before, and I think that's why this is now being argued at the appellate stage in the District of Columbia.
I know you can't get into specifics, but the DOJ Inspector General identified this top FBI lawyer who fabricated evidence in order to justify this warrant against Carter Page to spy on him. We know that's a crime, yet there haven't been any charges yet. Is that person still working at the FBI?
No.
And are there charges pending?
Well, we can't discuss, future charges, but I have to say that I do find it a little irritating, the propensity in the American public on all sides of the political spectrum when they see something they think could be a criminal violation and say, why hasn't this person been indicted yet? Why hasn't this person indicted? Why? And, there's the old saying that the wheels of justice grind slow, and they do grind slow because we have due process and we follow the process. But people should not draw from the fact that no action has been taken yet that means that people are going to get away with wrongdoing.
The president is counting on you and your department to crack down on social media platforms for what he calls censorship, including his own tweets. You said the law allows these companies to operate and it's been stretched beyond its original intent. So you think these firms are somehow censoring the president and his supporters?
Well, I think there are clearly these entities are now engaged in censorship, and they originally held themselves out as open forum where third parties could come and express their views, and they built up a tremendous network of eyeballs. A lot of market power based on that presentation, and now they are acting much more like publishers because they're censoring particular viewpoints and putting their own content in there to diminish the impact of various people's views.
So is there some action that you're taking?
Well, we are looking, as many others are, at changing Section 230, which is a rule that provides some protection for these companies.
Which would require Congress.
Which would require Congress, yes.
Prisoner swaps with Iran have required the Justice Department to drop charges or agree to time served for defendants in federal courts. Is this a good policy when Iran arrests people for just being American?
Well, it's a policy that has to be handled with care, that we don't invite seizing of more Americans. But in the individual cases where we've done this, we felt the benefit outweighed the risk.
So it was worth it.
Yes.
More to come on that?
I can't say.
What is it like working with President Trump in the middle of these crises? It's 2 in a row now, and you've been meeting with him a lot.
It's good because I think the president's a very decisive person, and he's interested in hearing all the views. There's a lot of robust discussion, and he makes a decision, and I think he's been a good leader.
If the president is reelected, would you serve in a second term?
I'm not going to get into that.
You're not?
No.
But if he asked you, would you?
That would be presumptuous of me to discuss that.
Our thanks to the Attorney General and his staff.